Numbers Game with Gill Alexander on VSIN, the Sports Betting Network.
Back on a numbers game where sports betting lives. It's Gill Alexander on VSIN, the Sports Betting Network. Jeff Parlay is here as well. Ladies and gentlemen, in studio, a man who has won, and I'm looking at the resume here. Again, won the Palm contest back in the day. What was that, $100,000? Win.
Palms wasn't that much.
Oh, win was $100,000.
I know win was $100,000.
Palms contest back in the day. College football, last man standing, won that. You tied for first here at the, what is this one? Stations Casino, last man standing again, right? That was the pro football version of that. Second and fifth in Circa. I could go on, but we don't have enough time. It's Las Vegas Chris, everybody. How you doing, man?
Oh, I'm groggy. I got too much sleep. I got 6.5 hours, so I'm mashed potato brains at the moment.
Well, what problems you have?
I never see 6 hours of sleep.
I want to go into your a bunch of tweets. There's some really good meaty topics here, but first, you are doing some big things media-wise these days.
Yeah, I'm very excited. My partner Ron and I have been interviewing some of the more notable people in the industry with the intention of producing original topics as much as possible that haven't been discussed before. So we've done Paul Stone, Brad Powers, Warren Sharp, Todd Furman. We've got some great guests coming up also. And and Matt Metcalf was a rocket ship. We did a 2-part segment with Matt Metcalf from Circa. He's the director. And there was a great pod the week before with Chris Bennett, and we intentionally made sure that the 90 minutes didn't duplicate any of that. So,
how can people find their way to your YouTube?
Las Vegas Chris YouTube. And then also what I did today is I condensed. I have so many people reaching out to me about contests. I condensed and made a playlist of other appearances I've had on various shows where I discuss contest strategy. So it's probably worth a look.
What contest are you going to be in this year?
I'm going to do Circa Million Super Contest and the Super Contest Gold.
You're back in gold. Had you always been doing gold?
No, I wasn't in gold when they were taking money out.
Oh, okay.
Or I don't like the one winner concept. It was nice when there were fewer people in there, but there's too many people in there. You've got to pay more. You've got to pay 3 or 5 or 10.
How many are they paying now for gold?
One.
Just still
it's one winner only.
Still one, but you're in it this year.
I haven't gotten into anything yet. So.
I know, but you're thinking about it.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it.
Okay. All right, let's go through some of these. Some of these are going to be more simple than others. Others are going to be deep dive ones. This one's pretty straightforward. Let's just start with this. This is at Las Vegas Chris on his Twitter. Always pithy. This one's very straightforward. Just because it's available doesn't mean you have to indulge. Don't let the game choose you. You choose the game. So much waste money on TV games of no value.
Yeah, but that's a vanilla comment. Anybody that's been around is probably sick and tired of hearing it. But for the new people, there's a lot of new people entering the space. The most efficient markets are the TV games. So you're going to have a hard time finding value, especially right before game time or day of. So, don't piss away your bankroll just to watch TV games. And I have a couple of people in DMs that say, that they keep on doing it. They know that they're doing it, and they know that they're losing on those games, but that's the only way they can enjoy watching these games. And, hey, it's your money. You spend it any way you want, but just be aware it's the most efficient markets that you're going to find.
What do you do as a bettor that is stupid to do, but yet you can't help yourself from doing sometimes also? Because we're all human, right?
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think it's just carelessness or I think it's just carelessness.
Well,
frankly.
That seeps into it. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I've gotten over having to bet a game for any purpose. I wish I was tracking records better, like my data better. I'm a little bit behind. So time management is a real headache for me.
Okay. This is now here's where we start to get into a little deeper stuff. So this is a response that you had to Beagle Bets here and Steve Fezzik as well. It says, it depends on if you're an originator and trust your numbers in many cases. Knowing why the market is moving and who is moving it is priority. When did it move? Why did it move? What factors are open that will move it? Where is it going to end up for starters? Now, this is a huge thing. But most people, Chris, when they hear about, okay, market reading, this is what you're talking about right here, wouldn't even know where to begin with this. So what can you sort of, because you are the best market reader, you're one of the greatest, if not the best that I've ever seen. Where would, what's your 101 on that for new bettors? Not even new bettors, but more advanced bettors too.
Well, the hilarity of this is that learning to read the market is a lot easier than you think. It's so multi-layered. I mean, there's levels of this, but anybody can watch the screen and anybody can figure out who the sharper books are. Watch the screen, look for the patterns, just see what's going on day to day. And when I come in contact with a lot of young handicappers that are very good. And we've seen an influx of metrics not being as valuable as insight. And I don't know whether that's a temporary thing, but that's an oddity that's going on. But regardless, they don't concern themselves with reading the market, and they're still okay. I feel like that things are going to turn against them, and they're losing value because you have to know where the market is going to go if you're serious about it. So watching the screen is important, knowing and observing when the markets move. Try to figure out why the market moved. Did it move on information? Did it move on a service releasing plays? Did it move on a certain group just playing? Watch each book to see what they do differently also. Know when the limits go up and people may be coming in. Know when the injury news is going to be coming out. Looking back on why something moved. Looking at what time of week certain markets move.
So give an example of what's a move that you would just pass off and you wouldn't care about. Like what time of week in the NFL season? What time of week?
Oh, there's no move I just ignore. I mean, I want to know where it came from. So oftentimes, if I don't know why something's moving, I'll contact one of my resources or several of my resources, and I'll ask them, because I can call certain books and certain faraway places and find out who moved what, and that's what I'll do. I want to know why it moved and who moved it.
You can do that, but the average person cannot do that.
The average person cannot, but they can find certain trends of when stuff moves, and they can be aware of notable people that might have tweeted or discussed that they're going to be releasing a play.
Care to share a notable person or two that people should be monitoring then?
For NFL?
Yes.
Well, we know that Adam Chernoff is going to be running his shows on covers where he's going to be releasing plays periodically. So you're going to want to be aware of when that time period is.
Is Massey Peabody still moving numbers? They were for a bit.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't pay attention to him, actually.
Okay.
That could be a flaw on my part. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I'm curious. I'm curious who is because back in the day, if we were talking college football, we would say Bob was doing it, right? He would move markets massively. Now he'll even admit, like, he'll move it some, but it'll come back sometimes, right? So all that stuff is fascinating, and just sort of. And I hope this question isn't too nuanced, but with that, are you more interested in is that a commentary on trying to? So the reason that you should know all of that is so that you get the highest rate of getting the best number, or is it more that the line moves mean something and translate to wins? Does that make any sense? So in other words, what's you're nodding.
For me, I don't care about the NFL because I trust my numbers and I originate what I do and I track when the market moves against me, and I actually have a higher winning percentage when the market moves against me for some reason. So I have confidence in what I'm doing, but if it's anything else, CLV is very important.
CLV is very important.
The average person. But I'll tell you, I've been getting buried in MMA and MLB CLV lately. So I'm just so fed up, and it's a running commentary between people I talk to. Oh, we got a CLV winner. That's a loser. I mean, it really feels that way lately.
Well, I had full baseball seasons where I beat CLV and got crushed, right?
It's frustrating.
So again, closing line value is what we're talking about. It is still true that the rate at which you can beat that long term, generally speaking, I'm not talking about a sport where you think your numbers are better. That's different, right? Maybe that's different for you in football. But generally speaking, for the average bettor, the better you are at beating closing line numbers, the higher the rate you can do that at, the better off you'll be.
Yeah, I know. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Generally, you want CLV. I mean,
Yes.
because it tells you that you're doing something right.
Okay, we got more of these. That was a bit nuanced, but some of these are a little lighter. Some of these are. There's another one here that's fascinating to me that I want to get into, which you alluded to there in the segment, which has to do with modeling versus non-modeling and how the non-modeling thing is kind of taking precedence these days. We'll get into that with Las Vegas Chris right here on a numbers game at VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
A numbers game with Gill Alexander on VSIN, the Sports Betting Network.
Don't forget, our college football guide is out now, and the NFL guide is coming right around the bend just a couple weeks from now. Start your football season on the right foot, on the good foot, with expert profiles of every team, including team trends, power ratings, and over-under recommendations, plus best bets on season win totals, division finishes, and player awards. Remember, the only way to get access to this year's football betting guides is to become a VSiN All-Access subscriber. Sign up early, and for a discounted $175, you'll receive the college and pro football betting guides, along with full VSiN access all the way through the Super Bowl. Or join us for $40 a month and see everything VSiN has to up your betting game. Go to VSiN.com/subscribe for all your options and become part of the Sports Betting Network. We get tweets at Beating the Book. Dale J. Matecki. Gil, I'm sorry to bother you during the show, but I missed your dog tennis pick. I got Jensen Brooksby, then my phone cut out. Francisco Cerundolo was the dog pick. But remember, I got him at better prices yesterday. The price I was seeing on Brooksby was a little too high at the beginning of the show. Don't play at anything above the minus 160. Cerundolo you can still play. I got it north of $2, but it was plus 180 something at the beginning of the show. This is from Nemesis Enforcer. Peeped Bud's season win totals last segment, or conference season win totals. Never heard your death row story. Do tell, was it during the Tupac year of 95, 96? I'll tell my death row story another time. We're talking to Las Vegas, Chris, for goodness sakes. Multiple handicapper winner. I'll get to the death row story one day. Chris, more tweets. This is good stuff here. Adam Chernoff, by the way, DMing as well, chiming in on it. I won't necessarily share because it was a DM, but this is we'll get to the good stuff here. But we'll start with a lighter one here. This is on your Twitter feed. It says many indicate they want plays to help in contests. Of course they would from you. My goodness.
Yep.
Contest success has little to do with betting. Key point. The goals seem the same on the surface, but far different. You don't play versus the house, and here's the big one. I use plays I don't bet on. Opposite sides, games I have no interest in, entirely different in contest. And why you have an emotional support dog photo, I have no idea. But you do, with sunglasses and a cigarette. This is such a key point, right? Because James Salinas, our buddy, who has won the Super Contest, finished third a couple years later, or the next year, then like 26, 2 years after that. You're a huge contest player. Now, your bets have actually been super successful. Others matter the last few years as well. But it's such a great point about contests because we, understandably, right, we're filling content. So we talk about contests every week during the NFL season, whether it's Survivor, but specifically when we're talking about handicapping contests, and we're talking about 5 games. If you're betting 5 pre-flop NFL games every week, some people might, a certain few might do that every week, but typically most people don't. And so there's going to be a few in there, if not, more on some weeks, but there's going to be a couple, if not more, that are just your playing contest strategy, for lack of a better term. Is that right?
Yeah, I guess the point of it was that I've had a lot of people contact me in DM, and they want to know how they can get my contest picks or my bets, and they want to use them for the contest. And I say, whoa, wait a minute. My bets aren't going to do you any good in the contest because the lines are going to be different and significantly different in some cases. And as the tweet mentions, they just don't have anything to do with each other. I think I use on average 3 out of the 5 plays are plays that I've bet.
But everything you said,
which is a very low percentage.
But I mean, think about it. Like, contests lines are static Wednesday,
right.
So oftentimes your lines that you bet are different, and especially as the year goes on, I would imagine your bets to be immediately transferred into a contest have even less to do typically with what's going on as if you're involved in contention, let's say, in a contest, because you've really got to figure out how to play the field, if you will, your opponents.
Well, I don't want that overemphasized. The key is to focus on your process, your habits, and how you're going to come up with the plays. I mean, worrying about the other people, that's a huge mistake.
Well,
until you get to the end.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the end.
Right.
Yeah, you got to be cognizant of that for sure.
You brought up something that's very important because I get people all the time that are worried about, week 4 lines. Just get the winners in. Don't worry about anything until you're getting in, you're past a dozen.
Yeah.
Weeks.
It's way too early. What was it? I was in a startup years ago. And we were young, and we had one guy who was super old. Like now, I don't think of him as super old.
Younger than you now.
No. He was still older than me now. But he was our adult supervision. I remember him saying, "We're going against our brand." I was like, "We don't have a brand yet, Murray." By the way, we don't have a brand. But it was so early, right? This is week 4. You don't know if you're anybody or anything. Okay, can we go back to that other tweet? Because I think this one, more than anything, really resonated with me. And this has to do, we talked about it before the break. Listen, we talk analytics on this show. We have modelers who are on this show. And the beauty of handicapping, and the reason that one of the many reasons why I wanted to do a podcast on it more than a decade ago, sports betting, not only is it a reflection of the human condition, but there's so many ways to skin the cat. And on one end of the spectrum, there's the most mathematical guy who does things by the numbers and exclusively by the numbers. And on the other end of the spectrum, there's smoke and mirrors. And there's, typically the right answer is somewhere in between. But here's something from Was Better IQ, which I think was great. And you commented on this. He said, the sports betting landscape has started to shift. The edge for modelers as a whole has been slowly diminishing over the last 5+ years. Pure handicappers who incorporate more qualitative elements have seen increases in their edge as the quality of information improves. Do we have Chris's response to that? Because you chimed in on this. I thought it was a fascinating tweet. And in general, I don't disagree with it. And your response was, yes, agreed. There has been a success increase for those not using a model. Is it temporary or here to stay? Great question. Don't think we know for sure yet. I noticed that most of the new breed have no understanding of how to read a market. We go back to that now, which lowers their returns. So, I think this is a fascinating subject because we try to say on this show, we did a great job of this on Primetime Action, maybe not so much on a numbers game, where we try to say, hey, just because you have a model, some people are like, oh, it must mean he's super smart, right? You shouldn't assume that with people.
No.
You just shouldn't. But to most people, like, oh, this guy must be a genius. And you also have to evolve over time. What was an edge for you in one sport in 2014 is not going to be, it goes away, and it goes away quick, right? So this is a fascinating thing. Do you believe that this shift is somewhat different than in the past?
Well, I think we have to factor in the enormous volume of added bettors in the marketplace, and maybe the CLV's losing a little value potentially. When you're talking about the gobs and gobs of money being bet, maybe the people that used to influence the market don't have as much influence anymore.
That's a great point.
And then you also have, for NFL in particularly, you've got groups from Europe now betting, and they bet at idiotic times sometimes. They could have had a key extra half point or a point. And I think Matt and Warren brought those same issues up in the videos we've been doing. I don't understand why there are some people betting at the dumbest times, and I just don't understand it. But as far as the models always change. I had to revamp my model when scoring elevated in NFL in 2016. and I had to change some things. Unfortunately, I haven't had to change anything since, but you always have to tweak or your edge is just going to go away. But I'm noticing a lot of people, not a lot of people, but handicappers that have no model, they're doing it on the fly with information and feel and whatever their personal process is, and they're doing well. And I keep waiting for the hammer to fall, which we've all been through, where we have success, we get confident, we get a little bit cocky, and then boom, it
always comes.
And then the wall hits. And there's a couple of people that I'm in contact with, they haven't seen the wall yet, and they're overdue. And
I want to continue with this, but I want to come back to something you just said right there, which was you were talking about European groups and they're betting this stuff at the wrong time. So there's going to be people listening who are like, well, yeah, but that could be me too, that I'm betting stuff at the wrong time on any given NFL week. How am I supposed to know that number is going to be more, is going to improve for me based on where I would like to bet it, based on the team I want to bet? Like, is that just experience tells you? Because, or here, let me put it another way. Should they be willing to go in a mode where they wait for the much better number and just be willing to let that game go away then?
Well, it depends on the numbers.
If they're not as skilled as you, if they don't know for a fact that better number's coming.
It depends on the numbers. I mean, you're going to want to do everything you can to ensure that you're getting that, that best number. In NFL, you just can't be buying points in general because the value has been diluted a little bit. And in college football, I just want to mention, South Point doesn't charge an up fee on any number, including 3. And I think Stations is the same way. That'll tell you that there's not a single number in NCAA football worth buying except maybe 2 or 3 times a year out of all the thousands of games.
If they're not charging, there's a reason why they're not charging.
And every sports book should allow players to buy a half point for 10 cents. I mean, it dumbfounds me how, one place in town charges 40 cents on the 3.
More with Las Vegas Chris. I want to follow up again on the modeling versus otherwise tweet and more tweets from him to dig down, just to give you a little macro perspective, a little more macro perspective on handicapping. Right here on A Numbers Game at VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.